The United States dollar has been the world's dominant currency for many decades now, but this could be coming to an end as emerging economies are starting to diversify away from it. And if that happens, there could be several reasons why. First of all, let's start with the basics. What is an emerging economy? An emerging economy is a nation that has transitioned from being a developing economy to a more advanced stage of economic development. These countries typically exhibit strong and sustained growth, industrialization, and improvements in living standards. They often have a mix of characteristics that denote both developing and developed nations. Some examples include Brazil, China, India, South Africa, Turkey, and Mexico. So why are these economies emerging? Well, they are doing so due to various factors like rapid urbanization, technological advancements, growing middle class, political stability, and increasing foreign investment. Now these economies hold immense potential for growth and offer attractive opportunities for investors. However, they also come with their own set of challenges such as income inequality, volatile markets, corruption, and lack of infrastructure. Now, despite these challenges, investors have been flocking to emerging markets because of the huge growth potential. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. Instead, we will discuss why emerging economies are moving away from relying solely on the US dollar. As we know, the US dollar has been the global reserve currency since the end of World War II. This means that most international transactions are conducted in dollars, which gives the US a lot of power over the global economy. It also makes the dollar a safe haven asset as it is seen as less risky than other currencies. So naturally, emerging economies hold a significant portion of their reserves in dollars. However, there has been a trend in recent years where some of these countries have been diversifying away from the dollar and holding more of their reserves in other currencies such as the euro, pound sterling, or even gold. This trend has been driven by a number of factors. The first one is the growing size of the global economy relative to the US economy. When the Bretton Woods Agreement established the dollar as the reserve currency back in 1944, the US accounted for around 36% of the world's total economic output. Fast forward to today, and the US only accounts for about 15% of the global economy. As a result, many investors are becoming less willing to hold large amounts of dollars in reserve. Another factor driving the shift away from the dollar is the increasing use of alternative payment systems such as SWIFT and SPFS. In the past, the US has used its control over the global banking system to impose sanctions on countries that it deems as a threat. This has led to concerns that the dollar could be weaponized against countries that are not aligned with US foreign policy. As a result, many countries are now looking to reduce their reliance on the dollar and instead use other currencies for international trade. For example, China and Russia have been using their local currencies to trade with each other in order to avoid using the dollar. Similarly, Iran and Venezuela have started using local currencies for trade in order to evade US sanctions. Another reason why emerging economies are diversifying away from the dollar is the low interest rates in the United States. When the Federal Reserve keeps interest rates low, it makes it less attractive for investors to hold dollar-denominated assets as they can earn a higher return by investing in other currencies. This has led to a decrease in demand for the dollar and a corresponding increase in demand for other currencies. Now, let's take a look at some examples of countries that are actively working to diversify away from the dollar. Let's start with China. China has been actively trying to internationalize its currency, the yuan, and make it a common denominator for global trade. The Chinese government has been working to make the yuan more accessible to foreign investors and has also been encouraging its use in cross-border trade. China has also been buying up large amounts of commodities such as oil and natural gas, which it pays for in its own currency. Another example is Russia. After the annexation of Crimea and the war in eastern Ukraine, the US and its allies imposed heavy sanctions on Russia. This led the Russian government to seek closer ties with countries like China and India in order to reduce its reliance on Western financial systems. Since then, Russia has been actively trying to shift away from the dollar and euro and towards other currencies such as the Chinese yuan, Indian rupee, and the Turkish lira. Another country that is actively diversifying away from the dollar is India. The Indian rupee is now accepted as a settlement currency in several countries, including Russia, Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Mauritius, and Seychelles. In addition, India has also been actively pursuing free trade agreements with countries like Australia, Canada, the UK, and the EU. These agreements will help to boost trade between India and these countries and will likely lead to an increased use of the rupee. Brazil is another country that is actively trying to reduce its reliance on the dollar. The Brazilian real is now accepted as a settlement currency in several countries, including Argentina, Chile, China, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, and Uruguay. In addition, Brazil has also been actively pursuing free trade agreements with countries like China, India, Japan, and South Korea. These agreements will help to boost trade between Brazil and these countries and will likely lead to an increased use of the real. In conclusion, the US dollar has been the dominant currency for many decades now. But that could be changing. Emerging economies are becoming increasingly important in the global economy, and they are also becoming more sophisticated in their financial management. As a result, many of these countries are no longer willing to hold large amounts of their reserves in just one currency. They want to diversify, and there are a number of reasons why they want to do this. From the growing size of the global economy relative to the US economy, to the increasing use of alternative payment systems, to the low interest rates in the United States. Whatever the reason, this trend is likely to continue in the future. And this could have major implications for the US and the global economy as a whole. If you enjoyed this video, you might also enjoy our video on the future of the US dollar. We explore whether the dollar will continue to be the world's leading currency or if it will be replaced by another currency or a basket of currencies. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.